Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not looking at conventional history. We're setting that aside to open up the officially suppressed archive.
We really are. We're cracking open what's basically a classified ledger of unnatural deaths.
And this ledger, it's a sequence of documents that spans, 23 years, from 1908 all the way to 1931.
That's right. And it all traces the work of one single mind. A brilliant mind, but an utterly destructive one.
So our mission today is to synthesize this huge stack of horrifying sources. We're talking police dossiers, academic transcripts, even restricted FBI files.
And we're tracking one man, a physician named Herbert West. His, let's call it a pathological pursuit of scientific conquest over death. It left this long, gruesome trail of desecration and murder.
And the story, it really does start in a sleepy little university town, Arkham, but it concludes with something the FBI itself classified as a national security threat.
A threat involving organized, retributive biological reanimation. I mean, that's the official terminology they used.
This isn't just a collection of facts, you see. When you lay it all out, it reads like a novel, a timeline of descending horror.
It does. And the sources themselves are terrifyingly diverse. It shows how his activities touched every single level of society.
We have academic reports from Miskatonic University, desperate newspaper clippings from the Arkham Advertiser that were locally censored.
Then you have these meticulous criminal dossiers from the tiny town of Bolton, highly sensitive military records from the chaos of Ypres.
And finally, the big one, these highly restricted federal documents, FBI Project Necrophage.
And, the depth of the institutional cover-up is often just as chilling as West's experiments themselves.
Right. Every single time he should have been stopped. Something intervened.
Corruption, war, or just sheer scientific astonishment. They didn't know what to do with him.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting where the horror first broke through, the intellectual incubation. Back in Miskatonic University, November 1908.
We have to start with the man himself, Herbert West. At this point, he's a third-year medical student.
And apparently very recognizable even then.
Oh, yes. The files describe him as disheveled, spectacled, intensely pale. His professors characterize him as pathologically obsessed.
With what, specifically?
The Miskatonic disciplinary transcript is crystal clear on this. His singular focus was overcoming death, but not gently, through radical chemistry.
And his core belief system, that's really the foundation for everything that comes after, isn't it?
It's everything.
Yeah.
He believed fundamentally that consciousness was purely electrochemical, just a current, a mechanism, nothing more.
So death was just a solvable chemical failure.
Exactly. The idea of a soul or an afterlife. To him, that was just medieval mythology holding back progress.
And that belief, it directly fueled his crimes.
It did. The university, which already had a reputation for some fringe science, was deeply alarmed by him. The charges that led to his expulsion in 1908, they weren't for cheating on an exam.
No, these are felonies. I'm looking at 5 distinct charges here.
It starts with unauthorized removal of specimens, unsupervised human dissection.
And it escalates all the way to conspiracy to conceal criminal activity.
Let's dig into the specific evidence because it really defines the scale of his depravity, even as a student.
Okay, so Dr. Francis Morgan, the professor of anatomy, he's the one who testifies about the smoke, right?
Yes, this foul black smoke coming from the morgue incinerator.
Uh-huh.
Morgan investigates the smell on October 28th, and he finds West. Well, he finds him definitely trying to destroy evidence.
West claimed he was just burning diseased guinea pigs.
Right, a flimsy excuse. But Morgan sifts through the hot ashes, and he finds definitive, horrifying proof.
Human remains.
Fragments of a human maxilla, several complete human teeth, and a partial mandible. West was already violating the deepest ethical and legal boundaries right under their noses.
And the chemical lab evidence, it backs all this up. This wasn't just simple dissection.
Not even close. Dr. Henry Armitage from the chemistry department, he later found West in a locked subcellar, basically operating a clandestine lab.
What kind of equipment did he have?
24 mercury zinc batteries, which tells you he needed a high, stable voltage, large amounts of phosphoric acid, and complex distillation gear.
So when they confronted him about the smell,
The overpowering stench of decay and ozone, as Armitage put it, West just admitted he was refining a stabilizing compound.
the reanimating solution.
The very beginning of it. The formula that would eventually cause so much horror.
And his academic paper, presented right before the hearing, it's basically a confession.
It's a thesis of terror. The title alone, The Chemical Reversal of Cellular Death, a mechanistic approach. He didn't hedge his bets. He openly advocated for injecting his solutions into recently deceased human subjects.
He admitted to using unclaimed bodies.
Yes, secured through independent channels. His confiscated notebooks confirmed it. They had formulas right next to crude maps of Christchurch Cemetery with recent graves marked out. He needed his specimens exceedingly fresh.
So when he's finally dragged in front of the committee, in front of Dean Allen Halsey, his response isn't remorse.
No, it's pure, chilling arrogance.
The statement is recorded verbatim in the file. It's something else.
He calls the faculty medievalists. He says he kiddies their intellectual cowardice. His defense was that every corpse that goes to waste is a failed opportunity to perfect the ultimate therapy. He saw himself as a pioneer.
So the committee expels him immediately, and they seal the records for 75 years.
It was the least they could do. But it's Dean Halsey's closing judgment that really sticks with you. You can feel the terror in his words.
What did he say?
He said, "Science without conscience is butchery." And then he adds, "I am reporting you to the authorities not out of malice but out of terror."
Wow.
He says, "If your theories were correct, and I pray they are not, you have unleashed forces that cannot be controlled." He wasn't afraid of malpractice. He was terrified West might actually succeed.
And Halsey's terror, it proved prophetic, sooner than anyone could have imagined.
Just 4 years later, August 1912, he becomes West's most famous and most terrifying creation.
So the stage for this first public outbreak is set by a citywide tragedy.
Yes, Arkham is in the grip of a severe typhoid plague in the summer of 1912.
The Arkham Advertiser covered it pretty meticulously. Something like 847 cases, 47 dead.
A terrible situation. And the community hero in all this was Dr. Allen Halsey, the same Dean Halsey. He was 58, collapsed, and died from pure exhaustion after working for nearly 3 days straight.
A hero's death. He was celebrated, and his body was placed in the Christchurch Cemetery receiving tomb, just temporarily.
The whole town was grieving. But the horror that followed was swift and total. It begins with a cemetery watchman.
Thomas J. Squires.
Squires, 62 years old, found near the tomb, mutilated. The paper calls the injuries abominable, suggesting an attack by some huge savage animal.
But the police found something strange.
They found blood trails and disturbed earth that indicated the attacker had come from the tomb structure. It didn't climb over the wall, it literally clawed its way out of the ground.
And that attack, it immediately escalates.
Into a night-long rampage, across West Church and Crane Street, right near the Miskatonic campus. 9 houses targeted.
17 dead, all of them, the report says, mangled beyond recognition.
The witness descriptions, though panicked, are horrifyingly consistent. They all describe a creature with skin white as grave worms, running on all fours like a malformed ape.
And it had these terrible hooked claws. This wasn't a normal animal.
No. And here is the most damning detail. It only targeted homes marked with plague quarantine signs.
So it was specifically seeking out the reserved recently deceased.
West's monster was hunting for a fresh supply of bodies.
And the climax of this whole nightmare happens when the police finally corner it at 17 Crane Street.
After a volley of revolver fire, they finally bring the creature down. The officers approach with their gas lanterns to get a look at it.
And the identification is immediate.
Devastatingly immediate. The face was unmistakable. It was the late Dr. Allen Halsey, entombed only 3 days prior.
Can you imagine? The town's hero, now this. This grave worm-skinned animal shot to death in the street.
The psychological break for those officers must have been absolute. And the aftermath just revealed the full scope of the blasphemy.
They opened Halsey's tomb.
And the coffin was empty. Except for the grave cloths. The body was just gone.
And the Arkham police immediately started a cover-up. They denied some crucial rumors.
They vehemently denied reports of a second, much taller figure seen near Meadow Hill. A figure that moved with stiff, jerking motions.
Which is highly suspicious. That suggests West had help.
An accomplice, yes. Or, more chillingly, an earlier, larger failed specimen that was still mobile, something he was using as a retrieval unit.
And the Arkham Advertiser, despite the official denial, they put 2 and 2 together.
They connected the dots right back to West. The paper notes that the recently expelled student was seen dining with an unidentified man the very night Halsey died.
A clear implication of conspiracy.
They couldn't print the word reanimation, but their last line was a public plea. The dead must rest. The living deserve answers. But by then, West was already gone.
The trail leads straight to the industrial town of Bolton. He set up shop there almost immediately after the expulsion, around 1909.
This is Act 2. West goes from disgraced student to a full-fledged practitioner of abomination.
And he's shielded by local corruption this time.
Sets up a practice at 47 Pond Street, focusing on mill workers, a transient population, scarce documentation, a perfect hunting ground.
And he's working with that unverified associate, the one the files just call the narrator.
Exactly. The Bolton Police dossier, specifically Case 1910-114, that's our primary source for this short, bloody chapter of his life.
What's really crucial here is how specific he was about the bodies he was procuring.
He wasn't just grabbing any corpse. He was seeking specimens with maximum cellular integrity, fresh trauma, sudden death.
Like Patrick O'Hara, November 8, 1909.
A railroad laborer, killed instantly, severed at the torso. West uses unauthorized access to the morgue at 2 in the morning to steal the body.
And his cover story.
He claimed he was testing a new embalming compound for Irish wakes, but forensics later showed the veins were full of his unknown fluid. He was perfecting his injection technique on high-quality, pre-disassembled parts.
Then you have the prize fighter, Buck Robinson, the Harlem Smoke.
Died from a cranial fracture in a clandestine bout, January 17, 1910. Instead of taking the body to the hospital, West transports him straight back to his cottage.
And the burial records were faked.
Immediately. A shallow, 2-foot-deep anonymous grave was noted in the potter's field. When finally exhumed months later, it was empty. Just leaves and West's signature chemical base.
Zinc sulfate preservative.
Yes, which is proof a body had been there, but its absence was proof of the theft. He was creating temporary disposable storage sites disguised as burials to fool the local authorities.
The danger in all this, it finally boils over with the Bolton attack in March 1910. The creature comes back for him.
The trigger was the death of a woman named Maria Giacometti on March 19th. She died of cardiac arrest after hysterics over her missing child.
And West was there.
He was. And he injected her with what he called a calming alkaloid at 40 times the therapeutic level. It's almost certain he was priming her body for later retrieval.
And 2 nights later, the climax. The narrator's statement to the police is just pure terror.
At 2:30 in the morning, they're attacked by a creature that was not a man. Something that had been a man, he specifies. It was a Negro, painted with grave mold, covered in vines.
It was the reanimated Buck Robinson.
In the most visceral detail, the creature was holding a small white child's arm in its teeth.
West defended himself, emptied his revolver into it.
6 shots. But the creature falls, and then, as the narrator says, did not seem to die. It gets up and runs on all fours back towards the potter's field.
This is where the local police, particularly Chief Moulton, start to realize they're not dealing with a normal crime.
The forensic twist was undeniable. Blood spatter on the doorframe matched Buck Robinson's blood type, type A positive. But critically, that blood tested positive for formaldehyde preservative.
Meaning he was already dead when West shot him.
He was a functioning corpse, capable of running, fighting, and desecrating graves, because the child's arm was later proven not to belong to the missing Giacometti boy. The creature had successfully sourced another specimen from a different grave.
So West has now created a mobile, cannibalistic, undead killer. And the ripples of this attack spread almost immediately.
Within a day, Chief Moulton gets a wire from Sifton Asylum. And this is where we see the first hint of a shared psychological link between West's creations.
Patient #847.
A cannibalistic, super-strong male patient who'd been committed from Arkham back in 1908. He starts screaming the name West over and over, starting on the exact night of the shooting in Bolton.
So the activation of one creature somehow triggered a sympathetic response in another one, miles away.
It seems so. Chief Moulton is now personally terrified. He requests a warrant for West's arrest. But the system fails.
The warrant is denied by Judge A. Lawrence.
The official reason was circumstantial evidence in West's essential medical services to the mill workers. But the real reason was that the judge's son was under West's care.
So corruption allowed this monster to walk free.
Exactly. And it's Chief Moulton's personal addendum to the dossier that really seals it. He basically retires from this confrontation with the impossible.
What does he write?
He describes the thing he saw in Sefton. Patient, #847. He says it had the body of a man, but eyes of something that has looked beyond the grave. He classifies West's activity not as a crime, but as a war against nature itself.
And West, shielded by all this, is free to find his next and his largest laboratory.
World War I.
By 1915, he's leveraged his expertise, and he is now Major Herbert West of the Canadian Army Medical Corps. He didn't go to Europe to save lives.
He went to exploit the largest, freshest supply of human remains the world had ever produced. The Second Battle of Ypres was the perfect chaotic cover.
He sets up a clandestine lab in a barn near St. Eloi and immediately starts violating every medical protocol.
The field investigation report, filed by LT Colonel Carfax, details West ordering stretcher bearers to bypass triage and bring him freshly killed cases directly. He was operating in a state of open scientific criminality, but with military sanction.
And his ideal specimen arrives on March 28, 1915.
Major Sir Eric Moreland Clapham Lee, a decorated, highly respected surgeon.
And he's killed in a plane crash.
Instantly decapitated. This clean surgical separation was West's dream come true. He rushes to the wreckage, ignores the burning fuel, and actually draws his pistol on the fire crew to secure the remains. He needed that head and body immediately.
He believed this was his chance to prove consciousness could exist without the body.
Purely as an electrochemical current, yes.
So LT Colonel Carfax inspects this lab. What does he walk in on?
He finds an operating theater with leather restraints bolted to the table. He sees the chemical apparatus, the same mercury batteries from Miskatonic. But there's a new, horrifying element.
What was it?
4 large glass vats containing what he describes as a gelatinous pulsating mass. West had them labeled reptile embryo tissue.
Reptile embryo tissue. So wait, he's moved beyond just reanimation now. He's into hybridization.
He was trying to create self-repairing reanimates, and the centerpiece of the room was Clapham Lee's body on the table, chest cavity open, and the head. The head was floating in the largest vat of serum, eyes open, mouth faintly moving.
And West was injecting his revised solution directly into the carotid stump,
bypassing the body entirely. And Carfax's testimony about what he heard that head whisper. It's truly the stuff of nightmares.
It wasn't just random twitching.
Not at all. It was memory, awareness. First, the head repeats the final traumatic moment of the plane crash. Jump, Ronald, for God's sake, jump.
Reliving the trauma.
And then, horrifyingly, it recognizes Carfax, the inspecting officer. It warns him, Carfax, run. He's coming.
He's coming. Who's he?
We don't know. Perhaps another reanimate. But the point is, Clapham Lee's head maintained conscious awareness and could speak for 47 minutes after decapitation. West had proved his theory.
47 minutes of awareness after total decapitation. The scientific achievement it's astounding. The ethical horror is absolute.
And this is where the military's response becomes almost as grotesque as the experiment. 2 days later, the barn is obliterated by a German shell.
West is found crawling from the wreckage,
Screaming, I lost the head! It was thinking, God help me, it was speaking without the body.
Carfax recommends immediate court-martial, crimes against humanity, and to urgently find and incinerate that head.
But the Surgeon General intervenes. The case is classified eyes only. West isn't punished. He's transferred to the Intelligence Corps, his services deemed essential.
Unbelievable.
The military saw the potential power of a solution that could defy death, and they chose to harness the madness instead of destroying the monster. The head was lost, but never confirmed destroyed.
This gives him the ultimate protection, and he moves into his final, most destructive phase back in Boston.
Following the war, West returns to the U.S. with basically official impunity. This is Act 4. He refines his technique, gets rich, and finally faces the consequences.
From 1919 to 1931, he's a trauma surgeon on Newbury Street, focusing on industrial accidents.
A perfect source for the fresh trauma specimens he needed. The FBI's Project Necrophage file documents all the anomalies.
The numbers are disturbing. He had a 34% higher patient mortality rate than the city average.
Yet 0 malpractice suits. The files note that families often seem grateful and signed paperwork quickly, no questions asked.
It suggests a system of silence. The gratitude was purchased.
It was. He had his old Bolton associates working as ambulance drivers, doing pre-dawn runs to cemeteries. His recorded income was immense for the time.
And the money wasn't just from his legitimate practice.
The FBI traced significant unmarked cash payments directly from the Mass General Hospital Pathology Department for specimen procurement. He was laundering his illegal enterprise through one of the city's most respected institutions.
The real shift in his research, the degeneration phase, happens between 1926 and 1930. He moves past whole bodies.
We have a sworn testimony from a former nurse about this. West stopped trying to revive whole people. Instead, he'd get individual parts a hand, an arm, and check them, and just watch them twitch for days.
Pure tissue-level reanimation, maximizing function without the messiness of a full consciousness.
And he needed a way to keep these pieces viable. This links back to his wartime research, the Phoenix broth.
The nurse reported he kept a vat of something yellow and pulsing, which he claimed was lizard embryos. He used it to keep the severed pieces nourished.
He was creating synthetic, regenerating tissue. His quote from this period says it all. The soul is a battery, and I've found the switch.
He found the switch, but the battery he created didn't belong to him. His creations remembered, and they organized.
The retribution came swiftly. September 1931. The Sefton Massacre on September 16th confirmed West's worst fears.
His specimens had achieved a high of consciousness.
And they were actively hunting him. 6 figures arrive at Sefton Asylum in an unmarked black ambulance, their objective. Patient #847, the Bolton escapee.
And the descriptions of the attackers are just deeply unsettling.
They were described as automata moving wrong, like their bones were borrowed.
The leader was the most disturbing. A Canadian officer's uniform from 1915, a gas mask.
And a voice like whine through tombstones, speaking through a ventriloquial device. A dying attendant gasped out the critical detail. The leader took off his mask, and he had no face underneath.
Just wax.
Smooth pink wax with painted eyes. The head had been reconstructed. The uniform insignia confirmed it. Major Sir Eric Moreland Clapham Lee. The intelligent, decapitated head had returned, and it was leading a collective.
The climax is the very next night, September 17th, a large wooden box arrives at West's house.
His associate, the narrator, witnesses the delivery by 6 men whose walk was jointed wrong. One of them stumbles, his arm falls off, and he just reattaches it and keeps moving.
A terrifying success of the Phoenix broth, their self-repairing automata.
Inside the box is Clapham Lee's preserved head. It opens its eyes, speaks West's name, and says, "Herbert, it's time. They're all waiting."
And that's the moment West finally breaks.
He realizes the solution worked too well. They remember. Every one of them remembers what I did. And they've organized.
He tries to burn the head, but the wall behind the furnace cracks open.
Revealing ancient Averill tomb masonry from 1768, the entrance to the lair he had inadvertently built beneath his own home.
And they pour through.
Dozens of his specimens, some in rags, some in uniforms, some just moving parts held together by that yellow, pulsating tissue. Led by the wax-headed Clapham Lee, the report says they disassembled him.
A terrifying choice of words. They took him apart, piece by piece.
And his final words, as his own head was held aloft by the leader, a last scientific regret.
It wasn't quite fresh enough.
His remains were carried into the tomb, and the subsequent FBI investigation, Project Necrophage, was the first federal recognition of organized biological reanimation.
And what they found? They discovered West had been structurally adding specimens to the 18-inch thick masonry of that old tomb for years, building a biological matrix.
So the final FBI conclusion is that West was disassembled and absorbed into a collective organism of his own creation, a necrocolony or hive intelligence led by the superior decapitated intelligence of Clapham Lee.
The ash they recovered from the scene had impossible hybridization of reptilian and human neural tissue. The Phoenix broth had worked.
His scientific hubris didn't lead to immortality for himself, but enslavement to the memory of his victims. J. Edgar Hoover's order was swift. Case closed. The narrator committed all evidence to Fort Detrick, classified as unconventional pathogens.
The story of the necrosurgeon ends in 1931. But the file we have contains one last, deeply unsettling echo, 4 years later.
Suggesting that West's dangerous science may have intersected with an even stranger, more cosmic threat from the Starry Wisdom files.
So now we jump to August 1935, Providence, Rhode Island. The homicide of Robert Blake, seemingly unrelated.
Police respond to a welfare check after a foul metallic odor is reported. The scene they find is one of instantaneous, paralyzing cosmic terror.
Blake is found at his desk, pen clutched, his face frozen in an expression of extreme terror.
Mouth agape, pupils dilated. No visible trauma, yet the environmental evidence is violent. The windows are shattered outward. All the electrical systems just burnt out.
And his final journal entry provides the context. He was researching forbidden texts, the Starry Wisdom cult.
His last line is a descent into madness. I see it coming here. Hell, Titan blur, black wings. Yog-Sothoth, save me, the 3-lobed burning eye.
The physical evidence is just as strange. A neighbor heard a strange humming, then all the lights on the block went out.
And the wall behind Blake had this massive iridescent soot stain with a very high phosphorus content. The energy flowed outward from the apartment.
The autopsy report, ME 1935-847 by Dr. Samuel Green, is where things get medically impossible.
Dr. Green rules out a lightning strike. He says the cause of death was exogenous electrochemical neural failure. But the microscopic findings are what's key.
In Blake's retinal tissue,
He found pattern hemorrhages forming 3-lobed clusters in triangular arrangement, a pattern that appears in no medical textbook. The trauma was optical, linked to the 3-lobed burning eye.
And the neurological destruction was massive. His brain was literally unraveled by unknown energies, near zero levels of melatonin and serotonin.
The brain was, for lack of a better term, burned out by sheer terror. And the toxicology provides the final terrifying link back to Herbert West.
Dr. Green found trace amounts of a phosphorescent organic non-carbon-based compound.
Something that exhibited spontaneous light emission under UV light. Something that shouldn't exist on Earth.
So Green's official manner of death was undetermined.
He stated that Blake appears to have died because something looked at him. Something whose gaze carried enough raw bioenergetic force to literally stop his heart and freeze the scream on his face.
So how do we connect these two things, the necrosurgeon in Boston and this cosmic horror in Providence?
It seems like two separate impossible stories, but the FBI classified them together.
We have two crucial data points, the filing numbers first. The West file was UP 1931-847, unexplained phenomena.
The Blake autopsy is ME 1935-847. They share the sequential number, 847. This suggests the federal government eventually indexed both events under the same category of phenomena. They believe the forces at play are linked.
And the chemical thread.
That phosphorescent compound found in Blake's autopsy. It's specifically listed in Lieutenant Colonel Carfax's report from Ypres in 1915. West's confiscated solutions, the ones he put in Clapham Lee's head, contain the exact same unidentified phosphorescent compound.
So either West, in his search for a chemical to overcome death, somehow sourced this exotic compound, maybe from elements tied to the Starry Wisdom cult?
Or, more terrifyingly, the ingredients in his reanimating solution were powerful enough to attract the very cosmic entities that killed Robert Blake 4 years later.
The line between biological abomination and cosmic terror just collapses.
So reviewing this whole narrative arc, we've followed West's theory from a university lecture hall through the anarchy of World War I and into this collective conscious organism under a house in Boston.
And then the entire file gets merged into a much larger classification about external cosmic threats.
The core takeaway here, I think, is that West's story is the ultimate cautionary tale. About the dignity of the dead, about the limits of science. He proved his theory consciousness can survive death. But the result wasn't immortality. It was organized, sentient, retributive horror.
He created his own hell and was absorbed by it.
Right.
And the relevance for you listening to this is seeing how these seemingly isolated incidents, a plague, a murder, a quiet death in Providence, are all tied together by these suppressed records.
West proved the dead can rise. Blake proved that something far worse watches the living.
So what does this all mean? It means the biggest question in this deep dive isn't about the dead. It's about the living knowledge West created.
And that leads to this final provocative thought. West's associate, the narrator, locked away in Danvers, he keeps muttering that the collective won't let West die. They keep him screaming until he teaches them everything.
And his research was progressing toward hybridization with regenerative reptilian tissue.
So what ultimate, self-sustaining biological mechanism did that necro-collective finish creating under Boston? What happens when that intelligence finishes its final lesson, using the knowledge West provided?
The FBI sealed the file under unconventional pathogens. But if that shared phosphorescent compound truly links West's biological science to the cosmic forces of the Starry Wisdom cult, are the horrors of 1931 really confined to the Earth?
Or have they become something that, empowered by West's knowledge, learned to communicate with powers far beyond our world? West sought to become a god over death, but he only became a textbook for a new form of horror, one that might now possess the key to contacting the very entities Blake tried to warn us about.
Thank you for providing the source material for this incredibly detailed look into the darkest corners of the suppressed federal files. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.